Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Racecraft Simulations V8 Veterans for round number 7 of season 21. Out at Motorland Aragon here for the Split 2 action here this evening. I'm your commentator, Hamish Munro, joined as always by the 5-time Split 1 champion, Scotty Gamble. Scotty, a new track that throws a multitude of challenges to every single driver in the Vets here this week in the sun of Spain. A dry and arid course for us to sink our teeth into. That should be one hell of a test for these drivers here tonight.
Yeah, how you going, Hamish? And as always, welcome to those on YouTube. I hope you have a great time tonight. You're absolutely right. A new track for us in the V8 Veterans. First time I think it's even been on the official calendar, so it's really good. A lot of us had to go and adjust to it, Hamish. Maybe download the track, do the preparations. And, you know, Jamie McKnight had done the fixed setup for this track well in advance, so there was no excuses to get the laps done. But absolutely looking forward to how the Split 2 drivers tackle it tonight.
Well, after spending 7 odd days at learning this circuit this week, I'm sure the drivers are now very adverse to how to best tackle this circuit here in iRacing as we trickle our way on down to check it out. No, there wasn't just the multitude of challenges of learning the layout, learning how to best tackle the corners, but learning the characteristics of the car and how it reacts to this track, Scotty. Number 1, very forward bias track. Number 2, it kills rear tyres because it is so fast paced. It's 17 corners. It's nearly a 2-minute lap time around here. And for 5Ks and 16 turns, this is one hell of a test to throw them in at the deep end for round 7.
It absolutely is, and you touched right on it. Looking after your tyres is imperative here, especially rear traction. You're correct in a forward brake bias. For me, this round was 53.4. I left it on it for the whole stint, and that seemed to work well for me. But yeah, really tough track on tyres and very easy to lock up a tyre and lose that momentum. It's a very much like Magello in a way that we just visited, Hamish, in that you've got to keep the momentum up through the corners.
I feel like this circuit almost feels like a big version of Sandown a little bit in how you tackle some corners around here. Of course, we started on the main straight and then down in towards the 90-degree hairpin for turn 2 or turn 1. We're almost guaranteed to see carnage here, lap 1, turn 1, aren't we, Scotty? I mean, 90-degree corner, heavy braking zone, sudden change of direction, and every single car on track is more than likely going to get caught out and locked up with each other into that section.
Yeah, absolutely, because it's such a short run from the start-finish line, from where you launch to turn 1. So if drivers haven't practiced how to get through turn 1 from a standing start, they'll either overshoot it or they'll brake too early, which can cause contacts as well. So very, very challenging corner, turn 1. Lap 1. So it'll be interesting to see how they go about it. Big runoff areas though, Hamish. So perhaps those in the front are just going to send it, and whatever happens behind them happens.
Yeah, it's going to be an absolute scramble off the exit of 1 as drivers go everywhere to avoid the carnage. The fast run through 2 and 3, very easy to run it wide off the exit of 3, get yourself an off track as well, and then up towards 4 and 5. It's quite a difficult section. You can often find yourself side by side, banging doors through 4 into the braking zone at 5. We could quite possibly see cars ending up off the track on the right-hand side because of it. Then up through 6 and 7. Another fast section, Scotty, where you come up over the rise and you're not quite sure where to brake because you're not quite sure where the corner is at turn 7 when you're first learning the track. You come up and over and you're like, oh no, where's the corner? Which way does it go? And then you end up finding your footing, and then the run down towards 8 and 9, where again, we could start to see drivers start to interlock and get alongside each other, very similarly to the fountain out at Long Beach that we saw earlier in the season.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those ones where you've got to really use as much inside track as you can at turn 9. You can pinch a brake, but it's all about the run out of 9 through 10 and onto 11. Like, there is so much time there, and there's so many different lines through turn 10 to take. For me, it was a short shift into 4th as we're rounding turn 10, and just using the throttle to be able to help turn the car and without understeering, and trying to get a really good run up through, well, is it a turn 11, but up to 12. And again, it's one of these ones where you can brake really late, Hamish, and then turn in. There's an anti-cut there. You really want to get as close as you can to that and keep the flow up, back up into 3rd gear as you hit turn 13, on the limiter as you get into 14. And 14's all about getting the right line so that you can attack the straight. So that's where it starts. Turn 14, you nail 14, you're well set up for 15 to give yourself that big run down the straight.
One of the big challenges at 12 is as you approach that braking zone, the road kind of dips away from you a little bit, and that can catch a lot of drivers out in figuring out where their braking zone is. But if you can maximize your run out of 15 down towards 16, you're not necessarily going to line yourself up for a passing opportunity at 16, but you can line yourself up either for a pass down the straight, depending on how poor the exit was for the car ahead, or just to gain some time to sit right underneath the rear wing of the car ahead through 16 and 17 and then get the move done up towards turn 1.
Yeah, absolutely. And we did talk about this. It's a track that really creates some intense battles, and we'll probably see it tonight, I hope we do, and see some intense battle packs starting to form between drivers where, yeah, it is a challenge to make the pass, but you can make it. You just have to really pressure them and apply that pressure. But in that, also look after your tyres, and you can save some fuel. So strategy and potential undercuts. There is up to a second odd in a undercut around here. So that'll be interesting to see how drivers use that to their advantage.
Well, they're also going to have to be cautious of as well as if we get safety cars, how long those safety car laps can go for. On a regular lap of 1 minute 50 could see us well in the 3 minutes for safety car laps, so that could also come down to your strategy as well. The current championship standings after one drop round coming into this race for the top 10 is as follows, and we have one extra name outside of that list because we need to keep an eye on them because they've already used both their drop rounds. Steve Grumley leads the title race with 910 points on 4 wins and 5 top 5s. Luke Ullman of Team AJR is in second on 848 points, 1 win, 4 top 5s. Ricky Hyde is on the podium at the moment for 801 Simsports at 803 points, 1 top 5, 2 top 10s. You'll then see that Stephen Greck and Rick Viger are equal on points in 792 and equal 4th. Then Bush and Scholes. Logsdale and Sheriffs are equal on points on 773. Then Mick Clifton is just inside the top 10 on 769. Now, this is after one drop round. Chris Burridge, who has missed 2 rounds this season, currently sits on 650 points and back in P28. In fact, he's the top-seeded driver to have only done 4 races this season on 1 win and 2 top 5s. Now, the reason that I wanted to highlight him, Scotty, is if we just move through this for a second, we can see that if we actually adjust this to 2 drop rounds for the season, there's actually quite a bit of change in the standings. So number 1, Grumley and Ullman, they still remain top 2. All of a sudden, though, Sheriffs is P3. Spriggs, who's outside the top 10, moves up to 4th. Skulls moves up to 5th. Burridge, all the way back in P28, moves up to P6. Hyde drops to P7. Bush and Viger drop to 8 and 9th. And Van Loon makes it inside the 10. Grec, Logsdale and Clifton drop outside the top 10. But if you look at that split, it's less than 100 points for the whole top 10 in the championship.
It is, and there's some tough drivers in there. The 3 that came in, Jason Spriggs, Chris Burridge, Scotty Van Loon. Wow, what fantastic drivers to really get in and mix it up with the 2 drop rounds in effect with that points there, Hamish. That is a fantastic result for them, and maybe that is going to excite it up with the last few races coming up.
Well, we know that Burridge is in the field tonight. We know that Grumley is as well. In fact, I believe every driver other than Jason Spriggs is in the race this evening that is inside the top 10 in the championship at this stage. But more importantly, this now means that they just have to stop Grumley from winning races at this point. Now, he's on the run. He's won 4 races. If he doesn't win tonight, then it's still going into next week. His only rounds that he counts are wins. But it's going to be tough for these drivers to do anything about it at this point. They must win races. They must stop Grumley from winning races. And I think out of any of them, I mean, out of that top 10, who is most likely to challenge Grumley at the moment for this title?
For me, I would have said Jason Spriggs, but he's not racing, so this is really going to affect his results because he has had a couple of races you probably want to forget about where he was doing really well. But Chris Burridge, you could see him on a move, on a flyer. We know he loves the send. On top of that, gee whiz, hasn't Daniel Sheriff's been driving just so solid, like really, really consistent, really well, same as Jeremy Bush and Rick Viger. You know, probably a little bit got under the radar there, Hamish, especially with only 1 drop round in effect, but 2 does see him push out. I'd expect to see him push ahead, especially when Jason Spriggs drops out after tonight.
Well, what I think is important to note as well, there's probably only 2 drivers in this 10 that at the start of the season I wouldn't have expected to be here, those being Jeremy Bush and Daniel Sheriffs. They've had incredible seasons to get to this point. I would have expected Luke Ullman in the 10, but I wouldn't expect him to be P2 at this point. So it's quite interesting how it can play out for these drivers and how interesting it can play out in Split 2 as well. We'll have another look at that at the end of round 9 when we have got our actual 2 drop rounds in effect. And we go into round 10 knowing what the points are and knowing what the lay of the land is for a lot of these drivers in the field, Scotty. So, you know, qualifying's underway for these drivers at the moment. There's about only a couple of minutes left of it for them. What's the mindset coming into a new track that you've put practice in across the week? Likely you've put more laps into this track than you have for any other this season. How do you tackle qualifying and how do you beat your own mindset if you don't get the exact lap that you may have wanted?
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because coming into this week, we really lent on each other in the team, like over at 9.5 Simsports. This is just from a driver's perspective, and we really pushed each other quite a lot throughout the week in times and sharing our times and where we could adjust. So the mentality coming into qualifying from my perspective as a driver was, look, I'm just going to go out there, lay down the best lap that I can, do the best that I can. I'm going to give it 1 lap. If I wasn't going to make that first lap count, it would have been an escape and I would have gone for the last lap, you know, in hope that to send it, because off tracks are a thing here. We might see some drivers get caught out with the 17 incident points as the race goes on. But yeah, you've just got to come in with the positivity, Hamish, and a belief that, yep, if I do the best I can, then that's all I can do, and whatever happens after that is fate, you know. And yeah, you might end up a few tenths off your best time, but that's still going to be a solid time.
Well, I do appreciate that you mentioned off tracks and incident points. There is a scenario in this race where you could enter and exit turn 1 enter with 0, you could possibly exit with 12 or even 15, depending on how much chaos there is on lap 1 at turn 1. So a lot of drivers are going to have to be cautious through that corner tonight. And I think it really comes down to the old adage of just brake a little bit earlier coming into turn 1, because you're all bunched up. And if you're further back in the field, it's very likely that someone's going to miss their braking marker, or they're not going to anticipate the whole field in front of them braking slightly earlier, and they're just going to ram into the back of them. So we'll see if it happens in this race. It seems that every race I've called at this circuit, there has been carnage at turn 1. So we'll see if we have it again this week as well. Now, you know, it's not only a tough circuit, Scotty, but now it's crunch time in this championship. Steve Grumley comes into this round well in control in the championship, comes in with the momentum with him on 4 wins this season. He's 2 away from equaling the record of Rick Sibra and Steve Kennedy on 6. He's 3 away from breaking that record, and he's 4 rounds away from breaking the curse of round 1 winner never wins the title. If he doesn't win tonight, all of a sudden there's pressure on him, because if he wants to break that record, he must win the final 3 rounds. If he doesn't win next week, he can only ever equal the record. He can never break it, because there would not be enough rounds left in the season for him to do so.
Yeah, absolutely correct. I mean, maybe that would be in the back of the mind. I think if Stephen Grumley, well, he's been the standout all season, hasn't he, Hamish? He's absolutely tore this split 2 field apart at times and driven exceptionally well. But I think maybe a driver of his standard, his class and caliber, he would be thinking, hey, if I can't get the best qualifying, you know, didn't quite work out for me, maybe consolidate, maybe look to finish in that top 5. And that's not going to hurt his championship aspirations at all. And also, the other thing on the other side of that, Hamish, is his promotion into Split 1. Yes, there will be limited promotions, I believe, for next season, but if you're in the top 5, you're a chance to be promoted. So any of those top 5 guys would be thinking of that as well, I believe, and thinking, hey, why wouldn't I want to be in Split 1? That's where it is at, you know, and they push for it, and that's why they're at the pointy end. So yeah, I think maybe Steve, like, he's matured over the seasons that we've been calling together, Hamish, and I think that would be playing on his mind as well.
Well, at this point, being on 4 wins, he's almost locked into being in the top 5 after 6 best performances of the season. No one has even come close to that. He's likely top for best 6 at this point as well, so he is pretty much locked into making Split 1 for next season is Steve Grumley. Now, qualifying has just come to an end. Chris Burridge has put his car in pole position, Scotty. The only car to get into the 149s. Grumley will start on the front row, though. So this championship battle that we've been kind of calling ever since the first couple of rounds when Burridge won his first race of the season and when Grumley did as well, it is now coming to a head. But the pressure's on Burridge because he cannot miss a race now for the rest of the season. He must race, and he must show up during those races if he hopes to put a challenge in for this title, because he cannot afford to take another 0, being that he has no drop rounds left.
Yeah, absolutely, and he's done the right thing tonight. He's put it on pole position, and, you know, that's the best place he can be, the best he can do. So absolutely congratulations to Burridge. And he is a driver that we know that can take it to the likes of Grumley, to Alan as well, and quite a few others. I mean, Charles as well. He's another one that could be a little bit of a wild card in there too, Hamish. So they're experienced drivers. They're very strong. They'll attack when they have to, and they've got a good head on them. So they'll definitely take it up to Grumley. And Grumley's going to have to be on his game, consolidate the positions when he cannot get the win, and achieve the maximum highest that he can for that race. And I think that will be enough, especially with 4 wins under his belt. You'd probably expect him to win another 1 or 2, perhaps, but he'd like more, obviously.
Well, so depending on who wins the race tonight. So obviously if Grumley wins the race tonight, no one can win more races than him this season. He would have that notch next to his name. If a driver wins tonight who hasn't won this season, which has only been 3 winners this season, Steve Grumley, Chris Burridge and Luke Ullman. So if anyone other than those 3 win the race tonight, there is still a possibility that someone could at least equal the amount of wins that Grumley is currently on before the end of the season. But most importantly, it's going to come down to the drivers who are challenging him they need to control the controllable. If they can't win the race, they need to try and finish as best they can within reason. They need to just try and be consistent over these next couple of rounds. arguably on paper, Ullman's the best chance of beating him at the moment, but Burridge we know has got great pace. We know he's on pace with Grumley. We know he has split one experience, and we know that he's hungry and ready to battle as close as possible to win this championship and to bring it back to M1 Racing after Kennedy won it back in season 19.
Yeah, absolutely. And, he has been, on his day, he has been an absolute standout. Skulls as well, he's been driving very, very well. I know you're a big fan of him. Simon Haynes, he can step up. There's quite a lot of other drivers in there, Ricky Hyde as well, Jeremy Bush, who's been super consistent, and Rick Viger. They're all going to take their chances when they can and try and get ahead of these guys. But, so there is a lot of talent that you showed in that top 10 that are all vying for it. So they may not be also going for the win of a championship, but they're also going for that second, third, fourth, and or those that are just out of the top 10, they want to be in the top 10. So yeah, it's really starting to excite up, and we're at round 7 now, Hamish. Can you believe it? Round 7 already.
It flies by so quickly, doesn't it, Scotty? You blink and you miss it. You blink and the season's over and we're crowning a new champion. I mean, this time last year, we were seeing if it was going to be Jason Strange who was going to win the Split 2 title. He did end up going on and winning that championship, but who would have known the kind of year that we would have in 2024 here in Split 2? The dominance of season 18 of Matty Skulls, the dominance of Stephen Kennedy in season 19 when he won Split 2. Season 20 as well, Lanyon's dominance, but he did not go on to win the title. Is it going to be a double up for SLS in missed opportunities, or is Grumley going to be able to redeem the mistakes that Lanyon made last season?
Well, it's interesting you say that because Lanyon did get 4 wins, didn't he, last season? So he's the SLS teammates, they're sort of on the same trajectory at the moment. So unfortunate for them, consistency paid off in another driver who, especially in that final round, really showed that consistency can dominate, get as many bonus points. They'll be a key factor too, Hamish. They actually play a big part, and all license penalty points, all them play a big factor. So yeah, that consistency. So I'd say drivers are not out of it by any means of the imagination just yet.
No, they're not. I mean, there's complete unknowns to come this season. Next week at Motegi for the night race. Could completely flip the championship on its head. Portimao the week after as well. And then Bathurst, the undroppable 300k enduro, which will end our championship in absolute fireworks. And if there was going to be something that goes against Steve Grumley, you have a feeling it's Bathurst. If it was going to be anywhere, it'd be the mountain, then it would choose the champion. But it's going to come down to how he can, number one, control the controllable, how well he can tackle the final couple of rounds before Bathurst, and how well he can set himself up in this championship fight. We have a heap of chats out there already. Luke Ullman, Sean Vandermillen joining us. Sean joining us all the way from Bali this evening. The Hoffy's out there, as well as Jim Caparonis, Simon Haynes, Mr. Robinson's with us, as well as Dave Baldock. Apparently the favourite driver on the Vets. Don't know about that, Baldock. Maybe the favourite to not be seen on screen every single week. WKMP TV joining us as well as Reese DeGoey and Dean Logsdale. Great to have you all here. Great to have you all joining us for round number 7 of season 21 this season. It's a ripping season thus far that has been controlled by Stephen Grumley, but there's a chink in the armour. He hasn't managed to put the car on pole this week. It's gone to championship adversary Chris Burridge of M1 Racing here this evening. Steve Grumley, though, will start on the front row of the grid for SLS Racing in P2. With Stacey Boyd, who showed some incredible pace in practice, was not able to match it in quali. He goes P3 alongside corrected P3 in the championship, Daniel Sheriffs in P4. Mick Clifton, Dean Logsdale inside the top 10, as well as Chad Viger and Jeremy Bush, Reese DeGoey and Scotty Van Loon make up the top 10 at this stage. We then have Michael Quain and Brett Taylor in behind them for the top 12. So there's a multitude of top 10 championship prospects there, but then you're looking behind Ricky Hyde and Luke Ullman, not the greatest qualifying for them. Damon Fisher, Rick Viger in behind with Todd Duggan and Simon Hayes for the top 9 rows, with Jim Caparonis and Brett Fisher making up the top 20. Adrian Zeal and Stephen Greck will make up the top 22, with Matt Stoyles and Wayne Shepherd for the top 24 cars on the road. We then have Peter Latham, Troy Sipple. Welcome back to the field, Sips. Great to have you back. Richard Barella, Simon Heddersheed, Paul Burns, Matthew Scholes, Peter Baxter, and Jamie Peters for a 32-car grid this evening, Scotty, the smallest grid we have had all season.
Yeah, it does get that way at times. where people tend to take a week off on a track or have planned events. So yeah, 32 cars around here. Why not? You know, it's going to be exciting racing. Great to see Jamie Peters back in the field. I believe he's got a new PC there, Hamish. So we'll see how that runs for him tonight. But I don't think he quite got a qualifying time in. So hopefully we'll see him push ahead through the field. But yeah, some really good results there. You know, congratulations to Barry Grumley. And I believe Stacey Boy, he's quite rapid around here. So he might put the pressure on those two.
He's definitely put in the laps this week, has Stacey Boyd. We'll see if it translates to a podium or a win here this evening. We're waiting a couple of drivers to join the grid. Obviously a normal 3-minute grid timer, as we would always have here in the Vets. Can Grumley get his 5th win of the season? That's the question on everybody's lips. Or is there someone that can challenge him? Could Burridge become only the 2nd multi-time winner this season? With Luke Ullman outside the top 10, it's looking more likely that it could be Burridge's way this evening, depending on how it goes for Grumley. Or do we get a new winner? Does Boyd or Sheriffs or Clifton or Logsdale, do they get up there? Do they take their first win in Vets in Split 2? Does Viger join the fray? Does Bush? Does DeGoey? Does Van Loon? He's had an up and down season. You could almost call it a roller coaster, Scotty. It's so too tough to pick, but it's hard to go past that front row of Burridge and Grumley.
Yeah, absolutely. There'd be probably 3 or 4 drivers out of position. I mean, Ricky Hyde, Luke Owen, Damon Fisher, Rick Viger. I think they're probably a little bit out of position to where they would have liked to have qualified, and that's representative from P13, 14, 15 and 16. So I expect them to push forward. They'll have to be patient, make sure that they get their lines right, and yeah, perhaps a strategy will come into it as well. But turn 1 coming up, Hamish.
It is, mate. It is. It's going to be chaos filled. Same has to be said for Matty Scholes, who's starting all the way back in P30 here this evening. Lights are going to go up. Barney's going to pull out the green flag to go racing at Aragon for the first time ever in the Vets for Split 2. Who is going to get the jump down towards turn 1? Are we going to survive? Is it going to be carnage ensued? All about to find out. Out of Motorland Aragon, Split 2 action coming your way. Burridge and Grumley on the front row. Who's going to get it down towards 1? It was a phenomenal start from all the top 10. No one's bogged it up early, but it's big running down towards the back as they rocket in towards turn number 1. Bit of check up in the back, and we've got the turn 1 chaos we predicted, as cars are having to go left, right and centre just to avoid it here, and there's about 6 cars involved.
Absolutely. We had 4 cars parked up on the wall on the left-hand side there, Hamish. But these guys are still going at it. They're 2, 3 wide as they come through turn 3, 4. A hell of a turn to get through, but all the top 10 got away extremely well. And crucially, Burridge, Grumley, Boyd, they're away and they're on with the race.
As Sheriffs and Clifton now battling towards turn 8 and 9, up through 7 they come. Viger and Logsdale lurking in the background as well. They're still too wide. Sheriffs is going to try and get the run through. Keeps the position in P4. Top 5 have not changed in this race thus far. The biggest loser at the moment is Scotty Van Loon, who was caught up in that turn 1 incident. He's down 16 spots. Taylor's down 13. Viger, that being Rick, he's down 12. But actually, I've just seen the biggest loser is Luke Ullman, who's down 17. Biggest gainer out of all of it, Jamie Peters back in P24. He's up 10 spots at the moment and inside the top 25.
That reminds me of exactly what Ken Ladd had done in Split 1. Started rear of field, made 12 positions from turn 1. Exactly what Jamie Peters done. Made 10 positions turn 1. Absolutely fantastic effort to navigate all that carnage in front of him.
Caperonis has done well too. He's one of a couple of drivers who are up 6 spots in this race already. Of course, he's running out there for WKMP Simsports in the Chubby Buns Burgers entry. He's got Toddy Duggan all over the back of him, season 15 Split 2 champion. Caperonis, a former podium finisher in the top 3 of the championship, so these guys duking it out in behind Damon Fisher and Ricky Hyde. Hyde's already up 2 spots in this race. Scholes, he's already up 8 after the early carnage, as well as Baxter in behind him, so he's already on the charge here, Scotty. He'll want to be trying to get inside that top 10 to put the challenge in for this championship.
Yeah, well, we know exactly how aggressive those 801 sim racing drivers are, and I'd expect he's right on it now. He's all over that Chubby Buns car of Richard Barella from WK and Simsports, so he wants to get this pass done early. Let's see if he can make the plane.
Was trying to line it up towards 4 and 5. We know that Skulls is patient, but we know he's also got pace as well as he tries to continue to put the pressure on Richard Barella in that Chubby Buns entry. We can just see the sort of gaps that have already started to form in this race, Scotty. This is one of the closer battles on track at the moment, but Quain and Bush, they're battling up further. Bush would love to solidify this top 10 in the championship this season. This has been, I mean, on paper and on screen, his best season to date.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. It has been an absolute cracking season. But the gaps from P7 all the way up to the P23 was separated by less than probably half a second, as we just see Jeremy Bush maybe get a pass on just then. So fantastic effort. But he's been super consistent this season, hasn't he, Hamish? As we see the old mate and sons have a little look on the inside there, has a little bit of a touch on the outside as they get this run down the straight. It's really crucial. So they've been checked up, Hamish. So that allows for these other drivers to get on the attack, and we're seeing AJR having a look on the outside. Yeah,
Hyde and Fisher have managed to take advantage of the door knock from Quain onto Bush. There may be a redress coming for Michael Quain if race control think there was any foul play in that one up towards the line to start lap number 3. We've got some big movers and shakers already. We mentioned, you know, it's all as Baxter's coming into the lane, so one of the first pit stops. Stoyles is trying to cover here on Shepherd in towards turn 1. Could be a nice move happening here. Bit of contact. Shepherd's gone round as Duggan's also gone round as well, and they've touched bums off the exit of turn 1, Scotty. But Stoyles may have some answering to do because that looked like the move was on.
Yeah, the move was on, but he went in super shallow into that turn 1, and you have to be so careful with that because that will actually widen your exit. So perhaps did he run too wide on exit? I'm not sure. Was he given racing room? Race control are going to decide that. But that move was on. He was up far enough to make it stick.
Yeah, so Shepherd tried to get it done round the outside. He almost, I mean, the pass was nearly made, but as you mentioned, the shallower line for Stoyles, that may come back to bite him, as possibly selling in the race might have been beneficial just to let him have it and move on and try and attack him at the next lap.
Yeah, absolutely, but we know that is not the way some of these drivers and their form says that they'll go about it. They will fight tooth and nail for absolutely everything, as we see that Infinity Motorsports car go all the way around on the outside. A little bit of a touch there, Hamish, and again, these guys are going at it early.
They are door banging like a bunch of trick-or-treaters on Thursday night. They are asking, am I getting some candy or am I getting a trick and ending up off track? But one thing that Shepherd's going to have to be careful of now is the tyre wear. Those tyres surely have got flat spots on them after the spin. We need to take a couple laps, get them back down to temp, and just get them sorted as Grech is off the road at turn 14-15. He's gotten it going again, but this is not the sort of night he would want to be having further back down the field.
Yeah, absolutely not. I wonder whether that will change his strategy. I'll be interested to see how Peter Baxter goes with this strategy, pitting in early like he did on lap 3. That's a big gamble, as we'd like to say there, Hamish. And as we see him coming into pit lane right now to get it done, there's that Jamie Peters.
That's Peters.
Scotty Van Looms is in pit lane as well.
Yeah, so those guys now in pit lane, early stop for them. Critical lap is lap 13 tonight. These drivers wish to make it home on a full tank of fuel, but it is a long way to go on tyres. But they will want to get their first stop done before that lap in case, crucially, Scotty, there is a safety car called around that point in this race.
Yeah, absolutely. And we see Chris Burridge set the fastest lap, last lap time around. So that's incredible to be able to do that on a few lap old tyres because of the tyre wear here. So he's definitely got some pace on him.
He does. He did a 150.73. Grumley had the 150.8. They're the only two drivers in the 50s at the moment. Everyone else is either in a 51 or worse. These guys have started to spread out now over Stacey Boyd. The gap is out to nearly 3 seconds from Grumley all the way back to Boyd here, who's under pressure from Daniel Sheriffs. Clifton under pressure from Logsdale. Everything's sort of reset itself now, Scotty. We're into our rhythm. And all of a sudden, the whole top 7 have reseeded themselves back into where they qualified in this race. As DeGoey, Quain and Hyde have found themselves further up the order and inside the top 10.
It's interesting looking at the interval gap here. They've broken up into pairs, Hamish. You've got 1 and 2, they're close. You've got 3 and 4, they're close. You've got 5 and 6, they're battling away. 7 and 8, they're battling away. It's really broken up into those pairs where they're just caught up behind. We talked about it early in the pre-broadcast, Hamish, how the draft can keep you in the game here, and it looks like that's what's going on with those top 8 drivers now.
So Scholes is now up 13 spots into P17 here tonight, Scotty, as I've just seen Damon Fisher's having a couple of dropout issues, possibly blinking in the field. Keep an eye on that one to see if he's able to remain connected to the race this evening, or if there'll be a free position for a couple of drivers out there. Quite impressed with the run thus far of Simon Heddersheet and Paul Burns. These guys have had some real tough luck this season. They're really getting the tough love from race control and from their own driving and getting caught up in incidents. But they're on the rise here tonight. Both of them up 6 spots, as well as Barella. So these guys are all in a little Commodore trio, just rolling around trying to make their way through the field.
Yeah, well, it's interesting you mentioned Paul Burns. He had a lot of drama at Magello, would be fair to say, but he had really good pace and he had aggressive pace. So if he can harness that aggressiveness, that pace, and just make a couple of little better calls, perhaps he was involved in an incident that wasn't his fault as well, he will make ground and he will be one that will be threatening. And I can tell you right now, Richard Barella would not like to see that Simtech Performance car behind him.
Well, we can see as well, Luke Ullman's been caught up in that lap 1 incident. There were a couple of NZ AJR cars involved in the incident turn 1, and he's come off worse for wear. Currently running around without a front splitter on this car. This will really hurt the front tyre wear on this AJR car, but I suppose the benefit of that is it may actually stop the rears from burning up so much because the front's not going to be dipping in quite as much. So, you know, you give up tyre wear at one end of the car to get it back at the other end. Maybe this isn't going to be so bad for him as long as he's not giving up pace down the straight.
Yeah, it looks like something would be doing a trip around in the pines at Moe there, mate. But that car has lost that front bumper. I wouldn't be surprised if we see an early pit stop. But no, he's going to go again. So obviously
Maybe
he feels comfortable in the car.
Maybe he doesn't know he's missing it at the moment either.
Yeah, that's probably a fair call, unless he's got a spotter there letting him. But
he's got no teammates around him to tell him. I don't think Burns or Heddersheet are going to be willing to tell him. So I think he might just be driving around blind right now. And if he doesn't have his fast repair ticked when he comes in, he might get a bit of a surprise when he's got about 30 seconds of optionals to put that front bumper back on.
Yeah, it might be a little bit more than 30 seconds. I think
Quite
it takes a
possibly.
bit for the front bumper to come in. But there is something I have noticed of late since the last update with it is you can have some serious tyre damage here, Hamish, in these cars, especially on the front, and be sitting 12, 15 degrees different offset to where it should be, and still get around the track all right. Yes, the tyre does go off very, very quickly, and you don't get as big a run out of it, but you're still able to drive it within 2-3 tenths of the same pace that you were setting previous. So perhaps that's at play here as well.
Yeah, I know you can often do that as well in like sports cars and other GT cars as well, Scotty. Just running clean, consistent laps, running smooth as well. It's not going to hurt your tyre wear, but and you're not really going to give up too much lap time as long as you're not attacking corners differently. It's just kind of racing at that sort of 90% compared to the 100% you might be racing at in the final 5 minutes where you're really burning up those tyres. At this point in the race though, lap 7 out of 40 as we begin lap 7. Grumley is just on the back of Burridge here within a second at the moment, likely fuel saving. Boyd has dropped back around about 3.6 seconds, so it appears that maybe Stacey is more of a one-lap wonder around here, Scotty, than being able to run those 49s quite consistently.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm not sure what Stacey's strategy is at the moment. I mean, Daniel Sheriffs isn't too far behind him, so perhaps he's looking in the mirrors a little bit. But he does have that pace. So, yeah, he was 6 tenths, off Burridge's lap time last time round. And same as Grumley, he was a couple of tenths off as well. But Longstar was a tenth quicker than Sheriff, so this one could evolve.
So, of course, big news during the week. Quantum Racing returned to the series after some little niggles in the background of their team. And there's now been a team change for Mark Peck, who's now gone over to M1 Racing, Scotty. And most of their drivers are remaining in the Vets, racing under the Quantum Racing banner with Quantum Tyre Solutions as their title sponsor now.
Yeah, well, the Quantum Tint Solutions, they were a sponsor of the V8 Veterans for quite some time there, Hamish. Many seasons ago. So that'd probably be a good question for the those who are viewing was when was the last time Quantum Tint Solutions were sponsoring the V8 Veterans League? But yeah, it's an interesting change. I was a little bit of a shock to see Mark go that. I thought he was solidified in there, but obviously change is sometimes good, Hamish. And hats off to him. He's gone to M1 Racing. They have been on the up and rise for a couple of seasons now. So good luck to him.
It could be a benefit for both sides. It was very similar to when Infinity Motorsports split, and one side came with me to Infinity, the other side went to the new team at Velocity, and both teams have now flourished in their own manner of where they've been focusing their efforts. Those guys focusing more on special events and sort of open wheeler stuff, where we're now focused on vets, and we've only gone better and better. So this could be now a bonus for both Quantum Racing and then as well M1 Racing for picking up Mark Peck, who could maybe help strengthen their team in a more team manner, being that he runs such a strong outfit in formerly QPR for so long.
Yeah, absolutely. And they weren't just involved in this league, they were involved in several others. So that would be an interesting dynamic for Mark over there. And it is a big change to the library. Maybe they just got that one together to get this race underway. But interesting change for that team. And maybe something will evolve as the season goes on. Let's see what happens towards the end of the season, and maybe if there is any other driver changes, Hamish.
I actually prefer this over the other livery, if I'm honest. I really
do you?
I really like it.
One.
I don't mind. I'm not saying the other one's bad. I really like this one though. The blue, black, and yellow with that little hint of white. I really like it. I think this stands out. It looks fantastic, and it still reminds me of that team. They haven't necessarily changed the branding of that team. Even though the name's changed, it still feels like the same team. When you look at it and you say, yeah, it looks like that team. Hoppy's saying season 13 was the last one he believes. I think so, because I'm pretty sure season 14, I don't believe Quantum Tint Solutions was a part of the sponsorship, which is when I started. I do believe it was 13 or season 12, because I recall back to one of those seasons having it. But I'm pretty sure it was before I came into vets, so... But this stage, lap 9 out of 40, we've started to spread out a little bit, Scotty, and getting into the rhythms now. But you would think we're probably going to see some pit stops happening fairly shortly, because a lot of this field would want to come in getting so close to that critical lap of lap 13 at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I did notice from driving, as we see an 801
that was
go around there. That's he's got it back underway, Hamish, and he's under all sorts of pressure just talking about the Quantum cars, and he might drop another spot here if he's not careful, though. He's got the inside line. Such a fast corner, this one. Gee whiz, it's good to drive this track at times.
Yeah, it was a struggle the first couple laps that I did in my own little test drive session, but it was fun. It was fun learning the track in the supercar and actually approaching it differently. I have done laps before around here in some open wheelers stuff, but it was an interesting challenge learning this circuit this week, Scotty, and I really did feel for the drivers this week for having to learn a new track. But not necessarily next season, but maybe season 23, they might be learning Pukekohe if we get it next season.
Absolutely. I'm hoping we do. You'd imagine if they do release the Gen 3 cars, there's a lot of talk going around. We've heard it for a long time, and I know a lot of people are sick of it. They're just saying, give it to us. But I'd imagine that they'll release Pukekohe with the Gen 3. It has to sort of go hand in hand, in my way of thinking.
I agree. I think more than likely next season, I don't think there's any other cars that they've scanned that's that close in the pipeline. So I think we're getting Gen 3. I think we're getting Pukekohe, and I think we, at a stretch, are going to get the Bend next season. It would be right on the brink of the development cycle. If it's not next season, then they'll likely wait to release it with the Adelaide Street Circuit once they've got that ready. Maybe SMP if they finish that by now as well, because I know they have scanned that.
Yeah, they've been doing a lot of tracks, which is great for us in Australia. I know people like to visit different tracks like we are here at Aragon, but at the same time, we are Australian. We love our Australian track.
I would love it if season 25, if we're able to, if we run an only Australian-New Zealand calendar.
Gee whiz, would that be something?
It would be pretty special. Just for season 25. Doesn't have to be every season, but that's like, it's a silver anniversary season. Like, that would be pretty cool. Just to run an actual, like, supercars calendar season. Run Oran Park, run Sandown, run Bathurst, run Winton. If we have Pukekohe in the Bend by then, that gets us up to, what, 7 tracks? You could then just fit 3 others in, or, I don't know, run an alternate layout of some of them.
Yeah, I do think Hoffy is right with season 13 was the last time that Quantum Tint Solutions did sponsor the league, because I think season 13 was when Luke and Cameron took over the V8 Veterans off Ben, and I think Quantum stayed on for that one season, and then after that they were hunting for new sponsors. So well done, Hoffy. I think you got that right. I do like his comment though, Hamish. He was 40 years old when they started talking about the Gen 3. Now he's 54.
I was in the womb when they started talking about Gen 3, and now I'm 26, so that just makes me feel old. But at this point, we're well into pit stop periods for a lot of these drivers now. Rick Viger finds himself in pit lane, Scotty, but I think this might be possibly a drive-through penalty, as he's already done a pit stop in this race.
Yeah, absolutely. And the get home lap is a lap 12 to 13. So he's probably in just a lap too early for that, Hamish. So that is absolutely a drive through. I'm not sure whether that's race control or, like we talked about, incident limits, because incident limits are going to play on some of these drivers' minds. I know I cracked up quite a few. I think I finished with 14 in the end, and I wasn't even trying to get off tracks.
I would be worried if he's getting 13 or 17 off tracks by lap 11. I'd be very worried if Rick was getting that. I'm pretty sure it was a race control penalty. Let's see if they have a note for us.
I can tell you that
they did. It was lap 1, Brett Taylor, Rick Viger. So Rick Viger was one of the perpetrators of the lap 1 turn 1 incident. So that's why he copped to drive through.
I can tell you, my first 5 laps of this track, Hamish, it was easy to rack up 15, 20 incident points, mate. But yeah, we've got to chip away at them. So,
you love riding the limit, though, Scotty. You should know this by now. You like finding your track limits and where those are.
Oh, absolutely. You know, I always find it easier to bring it in than take it out. A lot of drivers go the other way, where they want to stay on the track, learn the track, and then they take it out to the limits, and that's absolutely fine. I go the other way. I take it out to the limits and then find it a little bit easier to keep just trying to bring it back in.
So we are well and truly into the pit stops now. Lap 11, quite a few drivers have just come in that last lap, including Paul Burns, who's now done a second stop in this race, but I believe one of them may have been a penalty. Jim Caperones also came in, as well as Adrian Zeal. Damon Fisher, Wayne Shepherd has also come through the lane. He is a bit further back in the field, though. Took a slightly heavier fuel load. Fisher, though, was in there for 40 seconds, Scotty. So I have a feeling he may have had a stop hold penalty for something.
Yeah, stop hold penalty is 40 seconds. I can't see you taking 40 seconds of fuel. That would be, well, it would fill it all the way up, and there would be no need to, because you only really needed maybe 109 litres to take on board on top of the 50 we had already. So depending on the fuel burn, fuel burn could be as high as 4.98 litres a lap. So perhaps if they're taking it a bit easier, you'll do a bit less than that. So yeah, interesting.
So Ullman, Haynes and Barella now in the lane. Ullman claims he didn't know that his front end was broken earlier in the race. He has now gotten that fixed up, Scotty. I have to wonder, though, if he's used the optionals, which could get done during the tyres and fuel, or if he's used a fast repair to fix that up.
Yeah, I hope he has pushed the fast repair, get him back out on track, and see if he can unleash that Team AJR car. But at the moment, Grumley has stayed within that 1 second boundary this whole stint of Chris Burridge. So that's very, very interesting to note there, Hamish. He's been able to just hang in there. So he's going to save a little bit of fuel. He probably has got enough fuel to go another lap. I'd be surprised if Burridge, pushing that clean air, can go another lap here, but he may. He may have saved enough.
I have a feeling that both of them are just saving at the moment. They're not necessarily pushing ultra-quick lap times. They're both doing very similar times. A 51.2 was the last lap for Burridge. 51.5 was the last lap for Grumley, as Burridge is coming in as well as Grumley. So they follow. So Grumley follows him in, Does Boyd come in? No, he stays out to claim the extra points, Scotty. So maybe Boyd has been fuel saving this whole time. Maybe that's why he dropped some time on them.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you can take the extra point, you do. Obviously, you've got to cross the start-finish line to make that count, which includes you can do it in pit lane as long as no one overtakes you. But in that, Grumley's in the box seat here, being in P2. He's going to be able to see how much fuel Burridge takes on. So as soon as Burridge drops, he can hit his button and drop with him, and he's going to be there, right behind in 1 second again for the rest of this stint.
Well, it's the battle of the pit crews at the moment between Burridge and Grumley. Which one of them is going to drop first? Which one of them is going to come out of the lane first? It's Steve Grumley who's going to take the lead out of the pit lane. Burridge has stayed in for 6 seconds longer than what Steve Grumley did. So now we have to look at it as, Scotty, Burridge has a 6-second advantage in the pits. Grumley has to hoof and start to build this gap above 6 seconds if he hopes to come out of the pit lane ahead of Burridge again.
Yeah, that's an interesting one by Grumley. But if the key here is that Burridge isn't in his slipstream, so Burridge is going to have to do all the work. Grumley's going to have to do the work as well. And that got him caught up behind some other cars there in Viger and Hedderstream, who, this may not work out too well, on this outlap. So
I think
the
benefit is Grumley has 6 seconds ahead of him up to Hedderstream. Burridge is right on the tail of Sheriffs and Sipple, so they may actually start to hold him up here if they decide they want to defend their position, and if Logsdale decides he wants to attack Burridge, which it appears he does. So this could start to hurt Burridge now. This may be a little bit of a misplay, taking the longest stop at this point. But I think what's going to happen now is, so Grumley has already built this gap out further by a second over this portion of the lap. So it's now to 5 seconds. It is dipping a little bit, but the longer that this goes on, and if we were to go without a safety car before the next stop, this is only going to play into Steve Grumley's hands, because the more gap that he can build, the worse it is for Burridge. The worst thing that can happen to Grumley is if he builds the gap and a safety car gets called, because that's going to destroy it in an instant.
Yeah, although all this time he's able to make this gain. That's a really, and I actually got that around the wrong way with Viger and Hedderstream and Boyd as we see them pit now, which is on lap 14. Which is incredible for them to get that out of the car there, Hamish. So definitely some fuel saving. But this is going to hurt Burridge. But he has made the pass through, got past Sheriffs. Now he's out. He's got 6 seconds to Grumley. He's got clean air in front of him. He's going to have to push with a heavier car. So this will be extremely interesting on how this plays out.
Not only is he going to have to push with a heavier car, he's also going to have to defend the effective P3 in the championship, Daniel Sheriffs and Dean Logsdale, who after one drop round is inside the 10 as Sheriffs gets the job back done on Burridge. He's going to line back up in behind Logsdale here, so he wasn't quite willing to fight it. Had a poor run through that corner, Scotty, and all that work seems possibly like it was for nothing now, and he's only given up time to Grumley by doing this.
Yeah, he has that gap out to, that gap's grown another second just there in an instant. So that's a lot of work for him to do. Maybe another strategy call here, perhaps a pit early as soon as the tyres go off, maybe gain a second back that way. He'll have to rethink as long as he can get clear air, but this is definitely not going his way, who was absolutely in control from the start to the pit stop cycle.
We can see here the gaps that are changing over the last couple of laps. So we'll keep an eye on this throughout the next portion of this race. We should be going probably 12 to 13 laps before the next pit stop. Now, if a safety car gets called, every car can make it home on one more stop at this stage. Oh, he had a slowdown at that point. So he must have cut something through 2 and 3 that got him a slowdown, Scotty, and he had to give the time up to Logsdale and Sheriffs. Maybe ran it wide off the exit of turn 3.
Yeah, perhaps, and that's a real shame because, as you said, he's got a lot of work to do. Refocus again, because when you, as a driver, as you know, Hamish, when you have things like that not go your way, you can get a little bit steamy under the collar and push the car and start to excite those tyres. So what he needs to do now is just refocus, take a deep breath and go, all right, I've got to make that time up somewhere. I've got a long way in this race to go, and it's head down, eyes forward, and it looks like that's what he's doing right now, is we see him starting to close back up onto Logsdale.
Yeah, quite possibly just take a couple of sectors, reset the mind, and then refocus the attack back on Logsdale and Sheriffs, and just try and cut down the gap as much as you can. Try and cut down, trying to battle these guys as much as you can. Now, if they're not slowing him up at this point, Scotty, the worry's not too bad because Grumley's not really getting too much on him. It's once the battle starts that he could really drop pace a lot and drop a lot of time delta up to Grumley in P1.
Well, just to give you an idea of that, Grumley set the fastest lap with a 150.550 last time around. Burridge was a 153.630. So there's a 3-second loss right there in one lap.
Yeah, that'll probably come down to his slowdown and then also having to give up the positions to both Logsdale and Sheriff. So Grumley's done the work. He's gained 3 seconds over Chris Burridge, which would be enough for him to get out ahead of him in their next stop, seeing as there is a 6-second buffer between Burridge and Grumley in their stops. It's going to be tough for Burridge to come back out in the lead of this race after the second pit stop of this race. It's lap 15 out of 40 at the moment. Steve Grumley leads the way. Daniel Sheriff, Dean Logsdale inside the top 3. Chris Burridge, Michael Quain makes up the top 5. He's got Stacey Boyd hot on his heels at the moment. Further back, up 21 spots, Jamie Peters has got Brett Fisher, Paul Burns who's up 14. Simon Haynes and Luke Ullman in this nice little fatal 5-way battle pack as Burns is trying to line something up here on Fisher into turn 16. Further up though, biggest mover of the race thus far, Matty Scholes is inside the top 10 and up 22 positions in this race.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic driving by Matty to get himself up there. As we see Burns go up the inside, he's going to have a little look. Squiggles under brakes, under the rear brakes there. Can he get it? Plenty of racing room. He's got this job done. As we see Brett Fisher, he's not going to give it up here in that Racecraft car, Hamish. And you're on a right-hander in the inside here, but crucially, Burns has got the left-hander up here. He's got the drive done. We see the Quantum car and Simon Haynes take advantage of this as well and send it up the inside there of Fisher.
This is only now playing into the hands of Jamie Peters, who's managed to build up a nice little 1-second gap over this battle pack. The more they battle, the less likely they are to remain in the tow of that Infinity Motorsport car. He may just be able to roll off into the breeze further into this race, but it's now 15 positions gained for Paul Burns. Haynes is up 3, Fisher's up 4, Ullman's still down 3, and unfortunately for Bush, after he has had a fairly long lane travel in the last stop, Scotty, it was a minute for the lane travel the last stop. He took a long stop, a massive amount of fuel in that car. He might be on for a big gain later in this race, but he needs to get the lap times up to counteract the longest stop that he took.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see if that was an error there or something happened, or whether this is part of his strategy. That's a little unknown at the moment, because that is a massive amount of time to give up in pit lane and put yourself effectively back into P18, down 10 positions, Hamish.
Yeah, it almost seems counterproductive at this point in the race. They brought up in the chat, is it true if Van Ree took the sand out, he'd be challenging Grumley for the championship? Now, I've heard whispers that if every single grain of sand was taken out of Van Ree's car, he laps faster than Scotty Gamble. So Scotty deliberately built sandcastles in the back of that thing to keep Van Ree in check.
Oh, well, you know it, Hamish, when I was there at WKP, I had the shovel and I was loading up those boots, mate. But
Exactly.
yeah, no, we know that John can do well and does race well, but you know, he's one of those drivers, has a lot of life commitments and is time deficient. So I have seen him on track there getting in, you know, a dozen odd laps at times. So and Dave as well, Baldock as well. So good to see them into the chat tonight. But yeah, will be interesting because he is. If we look at the split 4 results, Hamish, he is in with a chance of a top 5 there.
He is, but what I'm very interested about in split 4 is Simon Haynes is having a moment here with Paul Burns. Bit of a rear end knock, straightens him up, but they're both going to drop spots. That may look negatively on Simon Haynes from race control, seeing as Paul dropped a heap of spots there. The redress may not be enough as Taylor has a lock up into turn 8. What I'm actually very interested in is how Russell Uren, who I think right now is probably Bookie's favourite to win the split 4 title, how he's going to go in that ultra competitive split 3 field, and if he could go back to back and end up in split 2 by the time we're here for season 23 in only 6 months time.
Yeah, that will be an interesting one. That split 3 probably hasn't got the recognition it deserves. There are some quality drivers in there. There's going to be some drivers that come up into split 2. So I'm sure some of these split 2 main game drivers are keeping an eye on that. So that's absolutely interesting to see how that unfolds. But wow, you know, Simon Haynes, he knew he gave Burns a bit of a tap there. They both lost out several positions, but fantastic to redress it. That's a real sportsmanship act there, Hamish. And yeah, true gentleman of the track there, Simon.
I like the sportsman-like conduct, something that I do as well. He at least straightened him up after he spun him round as well. As Chad Viger made his way past Ricky Hyde not too long ago, but he's actually started to gap him out now. So I have to wonder if Hyde's had another moment, because he's dropped about 3 seconds over the span of a couple of corners. He's got Mick Clifton hot on his tail. Accelerate Sim Racing. What a breakout season this could be for Mick if he could solidify a top 10 finish in the championship. After taking out his first league title last season in iRacing, he'll be hoping to try and back it up with some good performances here in the Vets on the Thursday night in Split 2. At the front, though, Steve Grumley leads by 8 seconds over Daniel Sheriff, Dean Logsdale. Chris Burridge is back by nearly 9 seconds, or just over 9 seconds, on the leader in Steve Grumley at the moment. Lap 18 of 40. We're going to go away for a quick little schedule ad break brought to you by our friends at Racecraft Simulations. If you're in the local Perth area, or if you're willing to pay the shipping, go and check out Racecraft Simulations over at Perth Airport. Quick word from them now. We'll be back very, very soon with more action from Aragon. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back very soon. Great to be back after our scheduled ad break from our title sponsors, Racecraft Simulations. Big thank you to them for supporting the Vets, and to everyone out there watching with us live as well on YouTube on the V8 Veterans channel. If you haven't already, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe, and the bell icon as well, so you're notified whenever we go racing here on the Vets. With Split 4 on the Friday night, Split 3, 6:30 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time, 8:30 p.m. New Zealand Daylight Savings Time on the Saturday evening, and then later on in the Saturday night, 8:30 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time. The Split 2 action. Big thank you also goes out to all of our other series sponsors. Logitech G, Südspeed gloves, Parramatta Isuzu Ute, Player One Sim Gear, Nova Simsports, LGC Images and Chubby Buns Burgers for their support with the Driver of the Day Award. And be sure to go and check out and support the wonderful foundations that we support here in the Vets of Bin the Blade for Balin Foundation and the McGrath Foundation as well. And Scotty, we spoke off mic during that ad break. This battle pack has started to heat up and sizzle and cook across the last couple of laps.
Absolutely. Since that half spin of Burnsy, he has been on an absolute mission, and he's attacking Brett Fisher everywhere he can. And Luke Orman, he's in the box seat. He let Paul Burns go. He didn't want to be a part of it, but yeah, this is very, very interesting. An absolute massive battle pack. These drivers are going at it. Biggest gainer we did talk about in there was Peter Baxter. He's up into P20, up 11 positions. He's got himself back into the fight with this one.
Yeah, Burns is up 14. This battling as well as Scholes brings his car into the lanes. He's now going to drop down the order. The biggest gainer thus far at this point in the race, and it's now allowed him to get out about 4 seconds over this battle pack. Jamie Peters up 21 spots and has built this gap out thanks to the battling that has been occurring between almost 7 cars on track as Haynes smartly brings it in, as well as Fisher, that being Damon, for a possible undercut over this train. This is some brilliant strategy from Haynes here.
Yeah, absolutely, and I see Scholes went into pit lane as well. So yeah, some interesting tactics coming out. Early pit stops. They've got a long way to go, Hamish, on a set of tyres here, but perhaps if they can get out of this, get themselves some clean air, they might be able to make ground and jump ahead of it. But at the moment, Paul Burns has got that car ignited, but he's come under a lot of pressure now in that last lap from Luke Orman, who has made good ground after that lap 1, turn 1 incident.
He's done well to come back to where he is, P15 on the road at this stage. Just checking in with Chris Burridge. He has now made his way back past Daniel Sheriff and is on the back of Dean Logsdale. But the last few laps, the time delta has gotten worse and worse for Burridge to Grumley. It's now up at around 10 seconds, meaning that he needs to gain 4 seconds if he wants to have any benefit of that 6-second advantage he has in the next pit stop between himself and Grumley. Over the last few laps, of course, it's not going to tell me what their last few lap times are. It's so rude of it. But over the last few laps, Grumley has consistently been lapping faster than Burridge by almost 0.5 of a second.
Yeah, and we just see Burridge put on a nice move down the inside there into turn 1 on Logsdale. Logsdale a little bit skippy on this there. Might be a little bit of a rear tyre issue going on in that Team AJR car, but yeah, he didn't really want to fight that too much, Hamish, and let Burridge go through. Perhaps get on the back of him. This will bring Sheriffs back into it as well. So let's see if Chris Burridge can set some laps now. He's got himself back in front again.
I have to wonder if Burridge was saving those tyres over the last couple laps, and then now that he's willing to go back on the attack, he's got more grip than those cars do on his rears specifically. And then now he's just able to push on and try and chase down Grumley's gap, which at the top end of it, Burridge could probably go to roughly lap 28, 29. Grumley's limit may only be lap 26 or 27, depending on, I mean, he put in 60 litres of fuel. He's not going to be able to go as far as what Burridge will, so it might be the strategy for Burridge to go as long as possible and just push on with possibly fresher tyres on the back end of that M1 racing car.
Yeah, it's interesting because 60 litres, you'd imagine that's going to give him another 2 or so, maybe 3 laps more than what he did in his opening stint on 50 litres. So 12 laps, you know, potentially we could see him in around lap 25, 26 for Steve Grumley. That'll be one to watch. Then it's, you know, a 14, 15 lap run home to the end. So that's probably not a bad strategy, one that I'd look at. But Burridge has the ability to see him pit early in front of him, and perhaps he'll come in for that pit stop at the same time.
Well, we can see that Burridge has done well to get past these 2 cars at this point. Only one driver is out of this race, that being Stephen Grech. There is another driver under pressure to go a lap down, that being Toddy Duggan at the moment. Although he's not really around anyone at this stage, Scotty. He's all on his lonesome at this point. He has got the leader, Steve Grumley, hot on his heels, ready to put him a lap down.
Yeah, that's a really unfortunate for Todd. He got caught up in that turn one incident as well, or perhaps there was another incident there that I've seen him involved in, Hamish. And yeah, he's gone backwards in a big way. Still 32 drivers in this. Stephen Gretsch is the only one out. He's 11 laps down at the moment. So yeah, Todd Duggan, if he could stay on this lead lap, or maybe come in, get out of the way, get his pit stop done. To go all the way to the end will be interesting. Yeah, he's run that wide. He doesn't want a part of it.
He's just going to, oh, I'll part the seas for you, Grumbles. I'll let you through. So now there's a bit of time between him and Chris Burridge and Dean Logsdale and Daniel Sheriff. Sheriff's getting a massive wiggle off the rear end of that Old Mate and Sons Commodore. And I have a feeling, I reckon we've predicted this right, Scotty. I reckon Burridge has kept those rears in check. He's got better tyre wear on the rear of that car. Logsdale and Sheriffs have burnt up those rear tyres trying to run away from him and chase down Steve Grumley. This could be a massive misplay for these cars, as they're only going to lose more and more time to Burridge. He has now gotten that gap down to under 10 seconds, so he has managed to sort of counteract Grumley's pace that he had at the front of the field now that he's passed those other two cars.
Yeah, well, he was fastest car on track last lap round. So if you work it out 2-3 tenths a lap, you know, they've got 16 laps. There's a few seconds there. Potentially, Hamish might bring him back to that 6-second net gain that he had. As we see, who is that coming in? Sheriff's has come in for an early stop. Perhaps he was starting to lose the tyres, but like you said, Hamish might have used them up a bit early. But, you know, possibly there is a scenario here for Burridge. If he can keep chipping away at 2-3 tenths, preferably a little bit more per lap over Grumley for the rest of the race, he might gain that time back that he lost, which was around about 3 to 4 seconds that he's actually lost since the last pit stop cycle. Well,
that's what he's done over the last 2 laps. He's consistently gone faster than Steve Grumley over the last 2 laps here, Scotty. So he's losing a little bit of time in the mid-sector, but he's gaining it back in the first and third around this circuit. Peter Baxter's now also into pit lane as well as Toddy Duggan. So he's back in the lane for his second stop of the race. And they're going to drop further and further back in the order at this stage. Closest battle on track we have appears to be the one up ahead of Jeremy Bush. It's Luke Ullman and Brett Fisher. So this little battle pack has now started to spread out slightly as a lot of the cars have come in for their second scheduled stop.
Yeah, I'm not surprised to see Peter Baxter come in for his second stop there. He pitted on lap 3, Hamish, if I remember correctly. So he's gone quite a long way. He's done 20-odd laps on this set of tyres. So he's in a good position coming to the second or the last part of this race, where he only has to do his 16-odd laps on a set of tyres. He's going to feel a lot better than 20, that's for sure. But this is a nice battle unfolding here. Luke Ullman, he's up 2 positions. Yes, some have gone in for a pit stop, but he's back up to P12 after that lap 1 disaster.
Well, the other 2 drivers who came on lap 3, Jamie Peters and Scotty Van Loon, they get to have their stops. Peters is up 24 positions and into P10. Van Loon, after getting caught out on the lap 1 incident at turn 1, he's down 5. So not a necessarily poor net loss from Van Loon at this stage, but he is on the comeback and will definitely be aiming for a top 10 finish here tonight if he hopes to continue to challenge for this title race. But it is becoming more and more unlikely for him at this stage. Brett Fisher has just been passed by Luke Ullman into turn 16. So Ullman finally gets the job done. Eyes forward up to Peters. Gap is now 3 seconds. And Ullman's not too far away to get back inside the top 10 of this race. Bush and Taylor, they're still battling. Hedesheed and Sheriffs, they're battling a bit further back, but remembering that Sheriffs is on an alternate strategy. So I'm sure that Shepherd and Hedesheed will just let him go, knowing that he's on the alternate strategy and there's no point fighting him, as Matty Stoyles brings the car into pit lane after copping a drive-through penalty earlier in the race for the contact with Wayne Shepherd on lap 3.
Yeah, this is absolutely crucial for Alan at the moment for his championship aspiration. He is currently P2, Hamish, as we talked about. Even with the drop rounds, the 2 drop rounds in effect, he still maintains that P2 championship title. So he's going about it the best way to consolidate the maximum amount of points he can tonight. He's got Jamie Peters just up the road. What a drive by Jamie Peters. 24 positions gained. He started effectively being last, and he's driven through this field with, as you mentioned, that early pit stop favouring that clean air.
It's amazing what a brand new PC does for someone on the track, isn't it?
It is, and
completely
depending how
changed it
many
up.
zeros were on the end of it, it might motivate him a little bit more if he spent that amount of coin on it, mate.
It might, quite possibly. Toddy Duggan's now back out on track. He's the only car that has gone a lap down on the leader of this race. Matty Stoyles is under pressure doing that as well. He's got Rick Viger just in behind him at this moment in time. What a shame for Viger here tonight. Got caught up in the lap 1 incident. Caught the blame for the incident, so he had the drive-through penalty. Fish has also had a poor run as well. They're just trying to fight back at this point in this race. They would love a safety car at this point, wouldn't they, Scotty?
Yeah, and I would love a safety car because I reckon that would ignite this field. Those who haven't pit, they'll be in on tyres. Those who did pit earlier, they'll get an undercut. So a safety car right about now would absolutely bring it alive as we see again, you know, Burridge is making those tenths or two inroads into Grumley, but it's not quite enough, Hamish. I think he needs a little bit more. I think he needs those 3 tenths consistently. But what it is showing is when he's got clear air, he can match the pace of Steve Grumley.
He can, and Grumley's been responding the last couple of laps, still running consistent low 51s over the last portion of this race. But Burridge is trying to do anything he can, clawing and scratching to chase down Steve Grumley at this point in the race. This is the make or break moment for Chris Burridge. He has to push at this point. He cannot afford to push after this next stop because he could burn out the tyres too early, and that'll allow Grumley just to steam away, especially if he has the predicted 3-second gap over Burridge when they come out of pit lane. So remember, even though the gap is around about 9.8 seconds, that'll drop back to 3 once they come through the lane because Burridge has got 6 seconds in hand of fuel to be put in his car.
Yeah, what I think Burridge needs to do now is do an undercut. Yeah. Absolutely get in, use that second, maybe a second and a half that he can gain as we see Logsdale and Viger into pit lane for their final and second compulsory pit stop of this race. But yeah, absolutely, get the undercut done now. That'll give him a second or two. That'll raise an eyebrow and put a little bit of sweat on Grumley. He'll have to respond by coming into pit lane next, which I'd imagine we'll see Steve Grumley into the pit lane next time round. I would think so, Hamish. He must be getting very, very low on fuel.
Yeah, he would be, as Todd Duggan, I was coming to check on him, and he's ended up in the wall, Scotty, at turn 12. That car's not going anywhere. This could be a safety car that most of these drivers needed.
Yeah, if he cannot get that car going, which it looks absolute toast, that was a big, big hit. This is definitely going to be a safety car, and wow, there'll be a few people singing their praises about that, especially the drivers that just got in for the pit.
Yep.
We see Allman, Shepherd, Barella, Bush, Taylor. They all jumped into the pit. I'm not sure whether they've seen it or someone told them, but they're in, and there comes the safety car, Hamish.
It is. It's coming out on track, so this has played into the hands of the drivers who have just come into pit lane. So Bush, who luckily for him comes out ahead of the safety car. What about Ullman here? Safety car is actually going to be patient and wait for the drivers to come out ahead of him instead of holding them up. That's nice of the safety car driver this week to do that. But this has now played into the hands of quite a few drivers, Scotty. Number one, it's played into the hands of Chris Burridge because all of a sudden he no longer needs to push. That 3-second gap is going to be null and void of Steve Grumley. He's going to be right on his tail out of pit lane.
Absolutely, and I don't think the split two guys will make a mistake this round, Hamish. That outlap of theirs is going to be absolutely flying qualifying pace for them to get back onto the back of the safety car.
So Burridge, Grumley, Boyd, DeGoey all into pit lane. Highest seated driver who's done a second stop of this race is Dean Logsdale, and he will be screaming for Scotty Van Loon to push his Fishy Motorsports Mustang to its absolute limits because Logsdale cannot pass him on track under yellows. So this safety car's cost a couple of drivers, but it's also played into the hands of others, namely Van Loon, who came in as early as lap 3 of this race, Scotty. So all of a sudden he gets a free pit stop. in this point of the race. And look at this. Grumley has come out in the lead, but Burridge is right on his tail. What a shame for Grumley. All the work is now in his hands to win this race.
Yeah, this does. It puts an absolute pressure back on him. He worked beautifully to gain, as you said, that 3-second lead, which he did. He did, even by now, there was a 3-second gap. So he drove absolutely beautifully, Hamish. And it's, even if Burridge is right behind him for the rest of the race, he's got a lot of work to do to be able to make a clean pass stick. So this is shaking it up a little bit. Dean Logsdale, he retained 4th position. Chad Viger back up to P5. Really good to see. Biggest loser out of that lot was Sheriffs. He's still down 2, but driving really well. Reese DeGuy, he made 2 positions. Clifton, he's down 3 into P8. Michael Quain has entered into the top 10, but the biggest mover there, one of your town favourites, is Matthew Scholes, up 20 positions to round out your top 10 here, Hamish. That's an absolute phenomenal drive, and he's got Ricky Hyde behind him as a wingman.
Yeah, he hasn't really lost out because of that earlier stop on lap 20, so this is now played into the hands of Matty Scholes a little bit. Yes, he's on older rubber, but he is up those 20 positions. Stacey Boyd is back onto the podium here, Scotty. He's back up into P3, so this safety car is also now played into his hands, seeing as his pace hasn't been up to his relative standard of what we heard he was running during practice this week. He's been down by a couple of seconds under race pace.
Yeah, he has. I did expect him to turn up a little bit. I'm not sure of what his strategy. I did see a couple of times he put a little bit of some good laps in that matched or bettered what the leaders were doing at that stage. But like I said, more often than not, he was dropping time left, right and centre. So perhaps this is a good time for him to be able to reset. He's on a podium. He's got the Dean Logsdale, hasn't he come on over the last few rounds, Hamish? He has been driving absolutely beautifully and with a lot more confidence. And what I actually thought we should have seen from him last season, but we're starting to see it this season, and he's starting to get the hang of this iRacing in the V8s.
Yeah, he is. He's getting better and better week in and week out, is Dean Logsdale. And he could be a proper top 10 challenger in a couple of seasons' time here in Split 2. But all the pressure now under this safety car is on this man, Steve Grumley, P1 on the road. He would have had a 3-second net gain in the pits if it wasn't for the safety car. The gap is now down as low as 1.7 seconds, and it'll be even shorter by the time we go green again, Scotty, as these guys sound like they are fuel saving at the moment. Not really using too much throttle in these cars. Maybe they put slightly less in than what they initially planned, knowing that the safety car was going to be out. But these safety car laps, they're going to be long. The last lap was 3.5 minutes, and that wasn't even a whole lap under the safety car. So we could be upwards of 4 minutes for these safety car laps for some of these drivers. So it'll be very interesting for them. But what a drive from Matty Scholes. 20 spots up, 801 Sim Racing. This bloke has had a mega drive tonight, and he's really starting to resurgence himself back into this title fight. If he can get a couple of wins before Bathurst at the end of the season, he could be a sneaky little dark horse coming into the final round.
Absolutely, and if you know you've got Matty Scholes behind you and he's in that top 5, you know he's going to be pushing. He is quite capable of winning this, winning races and the championship. And yeah, so he is definitely a driver that would be on the other drivers' radar. I wonder, with him on the older tyres, like you mentioned, Hamish, and Ricky Hyde on those new tyres, how do they balance this as a team? Because they're both well within the top 10 of the championship. So how would they work this one? Or is it just going to be, what do you think? Is it just going to be, yep, we're going to race and we're going to race fair, and the best Phoenix car gets in front?
I mean, knowing Matty, he'll know he's on older tyres. He knows that Ricky's got some pace. They'll play this smart. I think he'll let Ricky go, and he'll probably just hook onto the back of him and let him open up the path, and Scholes will just follow him through any attempts that Ricky makes. Matt will back him up on. I don't really see much point in pushing Matt's tyres at this point, being that they are a bit older. So the smarter play would get Ricky in front, let him use his fresher tyres to open you up an opportunity, save your tyres that are 5 laps older, and then push on, probably, you know, the next 5 or so laps after we go green.
Yeah, absolutely, because, you know, Matty will have the benefit of cooling these tyres down. So he'll get 2-3 good laps out of those tyres, but his drop-off will be a lot faster and a lot quicker than what his teammate is behind him. So you're absolutely right. Perhaps around that lap 5, something might change there, especially in race pace between the two.
So we've got no wave arounds to happen, ladies and gentlemen, as Todd Duggan was the only driver who was a lap down, and unfortunately he was the one car to get the safety car on track. So unfortunately he will stay a lap down, and in fact he's gone even more laps down at this point in the race. He's only a couple of laps away though from 75%. He only needs, I think, 5 more laps. He needs to get to lap 30 on his lap counter. He's currently on lap 26, so he's not too far away from it. Once he gets to lap 30 and finishes lap 30, he can pull out of the race and he will get points for P31 on the road. Unfortunately for Stephen Grech, he cannot possibly make 75% of the way at this point in the race.
Yeah, I think Mr. Duggan used his fast repair early. He had to fix that manually, possibly. That's why the 3 laps. But I think we were close to going green. Is the safety car back in there, Hamish?
No, it is. So the safety car is in. And Grumley has control of the field. When does he go green? Does he go on the apex of 17? Or does he hold them to the line? He has gone at turn 17. A great jump from Grumley, but Burridge has gone with him as we're back under green at Aragon. So a short, sharp safety car. Who's going to have the run through one? Do we get any carnage, Scotty?
I hope not, Hamish, but we do see a blue car, could be a quantum car, sending it up the inside there into turn 1. They got that done lovely. That gives the WK&P Simsports, the Chubby Buns car, a look on the inside, but he's going to lose out here, and that's going to be a position gain there by the kid, Simon Haynes, hasn't he? Driven well since winning the championship in Split 3 last season.
Yeah, simple Simon Haynes gets the job done on Caperonis. It was a big dive down the inside. Luckily, Jim gives plenty of space around majority of corners whenever he goes racing. So Simon probably picked the one driver in the whole field that would have given him a bus's width of space through turn 1. So he's very lucky he was able to pull that off. He's now hot on the heels of Ricky Hyde and Matty Scholes. There's been no team orders just yet from the 801 Sim Racing crew. Ricky Hyde still lines up in behind Scholes off the back of this restart. Mickey Clifton's trying to chase down Reese DeGoey, but also hold back Michael Quain at this stage. It's maximum pressure on Steve Grumley at the front of the field. Gap is now under half a second between him and Chris Burridge. We're going to have 10 laps to go when we cross the line. It is do or die for Steve Grumley. He's on the cusp of 5 wins this season. 1 away from the record, 2 away from breaking it. But at this point, he's on 4, and if he doesn't win tonight, he has to win the final 3 rounds if he wants to break the record. But yeah, Burridge, what could he do?
I could see by Burridge, so there, Hamish, I could see Burridge's car. He is absolutely pushing it. He wants to go with Grumley. We know Grumley's fast on those fresher tyres. We think Burridge actually had the pace on the older tyres, so he is absolutely pushing that car to the limit. You could see by the way the front end was wiggling on the road, and yeah, this is on for those two.
It's on for P1 and P2. It's on for P3 and P4. Logsdale was lining it up on board in 1. Couldn't quite get it done that time by though. So the battle now comes down to Steve Grumley, who wants to become a 5-time winner this season. Burridge wants to only become the 2nd man to be a multi-time winner in season 21. There's only been 3 winners all season: Grumley, Burridge and Ullman. Unfortunately for Ullman, he's out of the fight for this race. He's back in P16. He cannot win it unless there is an absolute nuclear explosion at the front end of the field. As Grumley has started to counter Burridge, he started to build that gap back out. But Burridge could be playing this smart right now, Scotty. Just hang back a little bit, stay in the tow, but force Grumley to burn up the tyres.
Yeah, well, he gave it a very, very good shot on the restart for the first 2 laps, Hamish, but you could be right. He could be just settling down, going, hang on, I need to get these tyres back under me again. I've used them a little bit. I've got a couple little hot spots. Maybe the inner core of those tyres are a little bit heated up, as we see just Grumley go a little bit alternate wide line on that one. So that was not an ideal line for the run down this straight. So, yeah, Burridge gets back, gets his head back in the game, settles the car, I think we'll see him get up onto the back of Grumley this draft, like we mentioned. There's a 2 or 3 tenths in it. It's surprising how much the draft does keep you in it here.
So even if Grumley gives up the win, he will still leave Aragon leading the championship if he manages to finish the race in P2. It's only if he were to drop further and further back that he would give up a heap of points and would likely need to take a drop round here tonight. It's not looking likely though. Grumley is still looking strong, but Burridge looks like a healthy and worthy challenger to Grumley's title hopes this season. It's M1 versus SLS, and it feels like these are the two combatants for the title this season. We mentioned it earlier in round 2 that Burridge was going to be on the hunt for the title. He then missed a couple of rounds. That took him out of the on-paper championship run. But after 2 drops, he is still inside the top 10 of the championship, and a win here tonight would help him rocket further up the order.
What was interesting that time around, Hamish, Steve Grumley said his fastest lap of the race, a 150.405. Burridge, a 150.485. Stacey Boyd then came and set the fastest lap of the race last time round with a 150.233. So these 3 guys are absolutely going for it. I'm not sure whether Stacey can hang on, but definitely at the moment, Burridge is clinging on the back of Grumley with everything he's got. He needs to stay there. He's 0.6 behind.
Last lap, these are the only 3 drivers to get inside the 1 minute 50s. No one has gone into the 149s under race pace here this evening. Grumley and Burridge, gap is now down underneath 0.7 of a second, but Burridge has managed to misuse the run out of turn 15. This has now allowed Grumley to get somewhat of an advantage down the straight up towards turn 16 now. It'll be 8 laps to go when they cross the line. There is not much time left for Chris Burridge to get this job done. It's 5Ks a lap, 8 laps to go, 40Ks left of racing in the 200-kilometre dash for the line here tonight at Aragon. And it's all in the hands of Steve Grumley at the moment as they just seem to be getting settled back into a rhythm before possibly a final 5-lap dash to the line.
Yeah, you've got to wait. You've got to have tyres come the last 5 laps. In the meantime, Scholes, he got past Quain. This has opened up Quain to come under fire from Scholes' teammate in Ricky Hyde. So I'd imagine they'd be pushing on. There's quite a few drivers in that train. Behind Ricky Hyde is Simon Haynes, Jim Caparonis. We seen him on screen just a little bit a while ago. Jeremy Bush is in there. Damon Fisher, Luke Allman, you know, your P2 in the championships. He's in there just behind Jeremy Bush. Brett Fisher is in there, Scotty Van Leeuwen, Brett Taylor, Jamie Peters, Peter Baxter. It is one long train, Hamish.
Well, it's even going as far back as Peter Latham off the back of Simon Heddersheed as well. There are battles all throughout the field, even in the minors, as Shepherd is trying to chase down Adrian Zeal. He's got Rick Viger, who's had a couple of comings together with the 313 Infinity Motorsports effort over the last 2 seasons. So these guys are, well, they're not strangers to each other. I mean, Shepherd somehow finds either Rick or Chad on track at some point in the season. Hopefully him and Rick do not have a coming together here tonight, especially with only 7 laps to go when we cross the line. But Grumley at the moment, his gap is still 0.6 of a second back to Chris Burridge. Sheriffs has now given up some time to Chad Viger. He's got Reese DeGoey and Mick Clifton hot on his heels down towards turn 16. In behind his teammate Michael Quain, under assault from Ricky Hyde and Simon Haynes. He's only just hanging on by a thread inside the top 10 is Michael Quain. Can Ricky Hyde manage to get his way back up inside the 10 and continue this run in towards the top 5 in the championship?
If he does, that would be a great result for him, considering the trouble that he had at the start there, Hamish. This was a good opportunity. I thought he was going to have a little send up the inside there, as we see Quain go a little bit wide. Oh, is this going to be another safety car? No, he's got that car going.
So this is what happened to Mickey Clifton. We have to have a quick look at this. So, caught some curb and then straight into the wall. Not what you want to have happen to you, especially out here, Scotty. That's a tough end to his race here tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. He's just got his left wheel on the wrong side of that ripple strip, the 3D ripple strips here, Hamish, and given it some jandle and got that car turned around. Really unfortunate, but it does show how hard those guys are pushing. And Yeah, at the moment, we got Simon Haynes, who has all over the back of Ricky Hyde, who's just dropped off Michael Wayne. I thought he was going to get that job done. We'll see if he can get back to him.
Well, Chris Burridge is now hot on the heels of Steve Grumley here. All the pressure is still on him. Big wiggle up towards turn 12 for Steve Grumley. Burridge is hunting him down. He's ferocious for a second win this season. He's ferocious to become only the second multi-time winner in season 21. All the pressure is on the 4-time winner this season, Steve Grumley. He's a multi-time winner prior to this season. This is his best run that he's ever had in Split 2, but yet almost feels it in the dying embers that all the circuits that we said would lead to some phenomenal battling and would change up the championship. You almost feel it slipping away from Grumley's hands.
Yeah, I think he's in the box position here. I do think that Burridge did look after his tyres, especially after those first couple laps. He pushed really hard to keep up with him because Grumley is phenomenal on those colder tyres. So I wonder whether that relaxation after those first couple of laps is starting to pay dividends for Burridge, or is Grumley tyres starting to go off just that little bit? But their lap times have been almost identical for the last 3 laps, Hamish, so they are neck and neck.
How does the mentality hold up? How does your mental wherewithal stand when you're under this much pressure for the win this season, for a 5th win this season for Grumley, for a 2nd for Burridge? It'll be a first for Boyd if either of these guys drop out of the top spots. They started on the front row together. They started alongside each other. They've swapped positions off the grid, with Grumley now leading the way ahead of Burridge, who had the pole at the start of this race. Burridge led the race early. Grumley's then led ever since the first stop. He's led the most laps of the race. He's getting the bonus point for that. But right now, it'll be 5 laps to go and we cross the line. Max pressure moments. It's a great run for Burridge. Grumley's having to defend. He's holding the middle line on the circuit. Great defensive driving from the SLS car as Burridge is trying to find a pathway through. Burridge is taking the lead with 5 laps to go in this race, but Grumley's not giving it up just yet. Has to back out of it and recalibrate on when he assaults him, but Boyd is right there, wanting to make it a triple threat attack for the final few laps.
And Grumley crucially got a little bit of a wheel spin, bit of side wobble there, and he was really trying to set himself up. And this is where Grumley's been strong, was down the main straight. His exit off that main straight corner has been phenomenal. Streaks ahead of the field, but he didn't get it that right that time when he tried to fight back. This has brought Boyd. He answered the question. I wasn't sure whether he had the pace to go with these guys, but he most certainly has. And Loxdale's not too far behind either.
He's not. The more that these guys battle, the more cars that'll rubber band into it. It went from a 1v1 to a 1v1v1 to a triple threat assault for the final last couple laps. Boyd has shown that he has pace in this car. He was holding himself back for the whole race in hopes that there would be a safety car, knowing that it's going green to the very end. He's pushing that Nova Simsports Mustang to its very limit on the back of Steve Grumley, who's trying to come home, take home his 5th win of the season. Burridge is only a few laps away from a 2nd win and to reignite his championship hopes before the final 3 rounds. And I cannot see right now where Burridge could make a mistake that Grumley can come through on him, but anything can happen. We saw the chink in the armour on Grumley, Scotty. It's only going to take one mistake for Burridge to lose it as well.
Yeah, and I just seen Grumley, he just got a little bit wide as he entered in through those, almost like a corkscrew. They're not his ideal run, but, you know, I wouldn't take it away. I think at the moment, we know Grumley's a solid competitor. He's not going to give up this fight. But this is a 4-car battle. This has really brought Logsdale. He's back to 0.7 of a second behind Stacey Boyd, Hamish. So this is a 4-car battle effectively for P1. Hasn't that safety car brought this alive in these last laps?
It has. It's really thrown some spice and some flame on your Saturday night meal of V8 Veterans action, brought to you by Racecraft Simulations. Split 2 has started to light up as Stacey Boyd is trying to find a pathway round Steve Grumley. The battle is on for P2. Boyd looks to have the run onto the main straight. They're side by side up towards one. No. Grumley just gets the run on that outside line. Boyd has to lock back in behind the SLS Commodore. The more that they battle, the more that this plays into the hands of Chris Burridge at the front of the field, who started now to gap them out by 0.8 of a second over Grumley.
Again, we've seen the tyres just let go on Grumley there on the line that he wanted to take into that last turn, and he was way out mid-track, and that allowed Boyd to close back up on him. Have a look, but when you're out that wide and you can get the power back down, you've got a great run up into the turn one. So, yeah, he didn't lose out there, Hamish, but gee whiz, I think he's slightly compromised here.
I think he may be. He might be compromised. I think the strategy of Burridge, look after the rears, force Grumley to push, force Grumley to burn up the rear tyres, has played into the hand absolutely magically for Chris Burridge. And now, I mean, you have to feel, does this now plant a seed of doubt in Steve Grumley's mind? Every round that he would claim this season as undroppable has been a win. His 2 drop rounds are his only non-winning rounds thus far. He'll come out of this race. This will be the first win. This will be the first non-win that he would have that would count towards his points, as Boyd has absolutely blown it up at turn 12, and that's going to allow Dean Logsdale through. What a moment this would be for Logsdale to be his first split 2 podium, and the multiple podiums this season for AJR. These guys have been on the rise this season, Scotty, and what a way it would be before they head out to Japan next week.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm still trying to process what happened there with Stacey. I'm not sure whether he had a slowdown or something. That just seemed way too easy. He gave that position up and said, you take it, Dean, and I'll come back at you. But, wow, this has turned on its head. So a big, big gap. They were like 0.6, 0.7 behind. It's dropped out to 2.5 seconds to this Chris Burridge and Grumley. So Grumley's found a way to fight back. He's back to 0.6, Hamish. He's found a little bit extra in the last the last lap. But at the moment, his laps are winding down. Time's running out. If he's going to get it done, he needs to get up there now.
The clock is ticking for Steve Grumley. The clock's ticking on him being able to take a 5th win this season. The clock's ticking on Chris Burridge having to defend this win. The clock's also ticking on Dean Logsdale for him to take his first podium in the Vets in Split 2. He's under immense pressure from Boyd, who's had the pace all week in practice. He's claimed he missed the downshift and then caught the slowdown. That's why he gave up the position to Logger at turn 13. So what a race this has been. Logsdale up 3 spots. Burridge, who started on pole, back into P1. Grumley, who started in P2, back into P2. Boyd has now dropped off the podium, and we have to still figure out who's been our driver of the day, because the battles have been intense, the racing's been awesome, and realistically, there's only 4 names in it for me, Scotty. Scholes, Logsdale, Grumley, and Burridge.
Yeah, look, I'm all over Scholes for a P22. I'm just wondering, I generally don't give driver of the day to someone who hasn't set a lap time. So I don't think, I might have to take Scholes off the list. But if Logsdale can hold on to P3, that will be my nomination for driver of the day, mate.
Yeah, I think this has been an incredible drive for Dean to get himself up onto the podium. Burridge has done well to come back and challenge Grumley this evening. Grumley's just been doing what he does best, and that's running at the front of the field and running clean, consistent races. It doesn't sound like me talking about Steve Grumley, but trust me, I am. He has completely changed how he approaches this championship. It appears that the harvest has been good this season, because Grumley has not put a step wrong all season long. And right now, he could be on for some absolute magic of P2 on the road. It appears that he's not willing to fight for the win. He's ready just to give in and claim P2 and not risk the points he would be getting for P2 right now. Who is this driver, and where is Steve Grumley?
Yeah, that's what we talked about earlier in the pre-show broadcast there, Hamish, was consolidating, and that's what a champion can do. And if Steve Grumley wants to be champion, that's what he has to do. Consolidate this race. Yes, I lost the P1. I made a bit of an error, Well done to Burridge. He capitalised on it, but now I'll consolidate P2. But I'll tell you who is not wanting to consolidate, and that is Stacey Boyd. He does not want to consolidate P4. He is still all over the back of Logsdale, although he just dropped off a little bit then, but he's most certainly going to push it. Daniel Sheriff's all over the back of Chad Viger. What a drive by Chad to get himself up into the top 5. Fantastic result for the Angry Birds racing team there. The Kumo Tyres sponsor on the car. He's driven very well and does his championships. All sorts of good stuff by finishing P5.
I mean, DeGoey's done well as well. He's up into P7. Skulls, as you mentioned, up inside the 10. Haynes up inside the top 10, as well as Caparonis, who hopped straight in the rig, fresh off a cruise ship before the race. So he's done well to get back up to pace across this race.
He has, hasn't he?
Peter's inside the top 15. He's up 19 spots. He's had a good run. Burns is up 11. Baxter's up 14. So there's been some big gainers. Header sheet up 9 as well. There's been some good big gainers throughout this race. And it's 1 lap to go for Chris Burridge. Gap is now down to less than a second. But it doesn't feel like Grumley's going to be able to challenge for this win at this point.
No, it doesn't. Like you mentioned, some great drives throughout the field there. If there was an excitement drive of the race, I would be giving that one all sorts to Paul Burns. He has been an absolute excitement machine over the last couple of rounds to watch. He's been up and down, but yeah, great result for him to get back up into the top 20. Peter Baxter, gee whiz, he's doing what he always does, makes ground P14. Great result there too. But yeah, this is closed back up. I wonder whether Burridge is starting to feel a bit of pressure here, Hamish.
He might be feeling some pressure. I've put a comment out in the chat. The 4 names that we only want to see in the chat is either Chris Burridge, Steve Grumley, Dean Logsdale, or Matt Scholes for your Driver of the Day nominations. We don't want to see any other ones, so Reese DeGoey is a null and void nomination there from you, Mr. Grumley, unfortunately. Although Reese has had a great race, the 4 names we put forward are the only ones we want to see when you guys are voting for this, because we can't pick it. It's too close to call for a lot of these drivers. Last couple of weeks has been pretty straightforward. We've been able to make the decision for ourselves, but this week, it doesn't seem so cookie cutter at this point as they come through turn 15. Burridge has had a mega run to the lead of this race. He led in the first stint, gave the lead up to Grumley. Grumley then led all the way to the restart of the race. And then Burridge clawed his way back to the lead with 5 laps to go. As he comes up towards turn 16, he's looking likely that he's going to be able to do it for M1 Racing in a week of struggles for a lot of drivers at the newest track on the Vets calendar. Chris Burridge has been the one to rise to the challenge. He takes his 2nd win of the season, becomes the 2nd multi-time winner here in season 21. Steve Grumley comes home P2. Logsdale locks in his first ever split 2 podium for Team AJR. Boyd home in P4, Viger P5. Sheriffs is going to come home P6, DeGoey P7. Matty Scholes up 22 spots inside the 10, as well as Haynes and Caparonis, who are both up 9 into the 10, with Bush, Ullman, Van Loon, Fisher and Peters making up the 15.
What a great run by Jamie Peters to be up 19 positions, Hamish, into P15. A great return for Jamie. Great to see him back into the split 2 action. Brett Taylor down 4 into 16. Peter Baxter up 14 positions into P17. Paul Burns, the excitement machine from Simtech Performance. He made 11 positions into P18. Simon Hedderschild, a great driver. He made positions gains tonight, up 9 into P19. Peter Latham got himself a little bit caught up in there throughout. Didn't talk about him much tonight, Hamish, but he still found a way to make 5 positions to round out your top 20 tonight.
Yeah, he was a bit of a silent achiever out there, was Mr. Latham. Matt Stoyles, Damon Fisher, Rick Viger, Richard Barella, Troy Sipple, Adrian Zeal, Wayne Shepherd, Michael Quain, Ricky Hyde, Mick Clifton and Todd Duggan round out our 75% of the way runners, with Stephen Greck unfortunately not finishing this race. What a shame for Ricky Hyde. We missed it. He dropped all the way back to P29 on the road. Not what he would be wanting to do for his championship run, but Mr. Burridge is currently drifting his way through the little Toge section of turn 8, 9 and 10 in his M1 racing machine. We have him in the green room as well. We'll drag him in for a quick chat. Mr. Burridge, what a return to form for you, sir. Your 2nd win of the season. And, I mean, do you want to do it any other way than that?
No. It was an epic race. But, yeah, I really enjoyed it. Yeah, Stephen, he is such a good driver, and I just had to hang with him. Had a bit of luck with the yellow there and that. So yeah, it was an epic race. So really enjoyed it.
Well, it played into your hands. You had the pit stop strategy in your favour. Unfortunately, though, you got caught up between some cars that then really took it out of your favour, but the safety car came out at the right time for you.
Yeah, it did. Well, like after my first pit stop, I think it was Dean and Daniel in front of me. Those guys, I was worried because I'm like, Stephen's going to get a huge lead, but the boys did some awesome laps and they were fighting, but they were still keeping up. So I was actually pretty comfortable behind them there for a bit. Managed to get past them and then try and just like lessen that gap, I guess, to Stephen for the last bit. But then the yellow I think really did save me a bit. So.
Well, you drove absolutely beautifully, Chris, and you did have to pace on those older tyres. We were noticing through the second stint as well, you were actually making gains once you got yourself into clear air. But I've got to ask, does your team boss get the champagne out for this victory to see the M1 used car, M1 Racing, back up onto the front of the Split 2 field again, which was a regular occurrence when he was back racing in the Split 2? I'm sure you'd be super stoked with your performance tonight, mate.
Yeah, totally. I've offered it to sign some sun visors for his cars that he sells this week. So just have a look out for those.
Go and sign, absolutely. Get the signature on it. Get the race number on it. 042. Put that all over it, mate.
Yep. So we'll see how that goes. Yeah.
Oh, Chris, it was. It's been an exceptional run from you. I expect a champagne spray from Crosby to post a video in the general chat for us, I'm sure. But let us know helps get you and M-Run Racing out on circuit. Anyone else you wish to give a shout out to as well? For myself and Scotty and the rest of the league, congratulations on your second win of the season here at Motorland Aragon.
Yeah, thank you very much. Obviously, M1 used cars with Queensland. Look out for some good deals there, I'm sure. Obviously, you guys are awesome to have the stream going. You guys did a fantastic job, so thank you very much for that. And that's about it. There you go.
Well, mate, best of luck next week when we go racing under lights out at Motegi. We look forward to seeing how you go. Are you going to be here for every race for the rest of the season?
Do you want some bad news? Or
You're not going to be here for the rest of the season, are you?
I've got one more race that I can make. I've got like some big family stuff going on.
Oh, fair enough.
So, yeah, I've got a couple of weeks.
We need to hope that Mr. Grumley doesn't show up for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, maybe. No, good luck to him. He deserves it anyway. He's an awesome driver. So.
Oh, well, mate, even though you can't be here for the rest of the season or for most of the rest of the season, hopefully you can be here enough to get yourself inside the top 5 and back up into Split 1 next season.
Yeah, we'll see. So.
All right, mate. Best of luck when you're out with us again out on track here in Split 2, and hopefully we get to chat to you before the end of the season.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks, mate. We have our P2 as well, waiting in the wings, the championship leader, Stephen Grumley. Grumbles, it didn't go your way tonight. You weren't able to get up to the elusive 5th win of the season, but another podium for you, and your perfect record of finishing inside the top 5 continues this season. What has changed in the water, and how well has that harvest gone for you to be driving like this season?
Well, I'm not a farmer.
Oh, well.
Nah, that's P2's not too bad. Thought we were going right with a better 9.5, 10-second lead there, and then the safety car got called and probably had to pay back about 6 seconds. So I think we're probably 3.5 up the sleeve, but safety car came out, so that was all good, and it was game on, and made a little mistake there. I think you said going through the corkscrew, and that was about it. Burridge thought he'd send it, so good on him. I would have done the same, so not a bad result though. P2.
Yeah,
we'll take that.
Really unfortunate there, Steve, with the safety car, because you would have come out with that 3-odd second lead. I didn't really adjust my fuel too much, so I ended up with, I think, finished with 6.5 litres. So I didn't really adjust it too much, so it probably would have been a little bit more, but that's okay. Yeah, and so about it is P2 is a fantastic result, like especially in this field, mate. So absolute credit to you. You drove the wings off it. You drove
I think
very, very well.
I think I had a pretty good strategy to start the race. I think I put in 60 litres, and I think Burridge put in a fair bit extra, which I don't know why, but anyway, like the car ran pretty good with about that in the tank. So no, it was a good result, but we'll push on to next week, and we're just sitting up here at Bridgewater at the minute. Bridgewater on the Loddon Caravan Park here, and yeah, we'll see how we go next week. Where are we again?
At Motegi for the night race.
That's right. Yes.
So you
Yes.
may not be able to see. We may not be able to see
I'll be
you
able
in
to
the
see.
race, but
I'll put my night goggles on.
you're going to eat your carrots this week, aren't you? So you can see in the dark.
Oh, we'll be right. We'll go right.
All right, mate. Let us know who helps get you out on track. Anyone else you wish to give a shout out to as well? And for myself and Scotty, congratulations on your P2 out at Motorland Aragon.
Yeah, no, cheers. Just a special shout out to Sheer Genius and all the sponsors on the car and all the race control and all the sponsors in the vets that make the thing run. So we wouldn't be here without them. So big congrats to them, and yeah, cheers, boys.
Well, mate, thank you so much for coming over chat to us. We really appreciate it. Best of luck next week out at Motegi. We look forward to seeing how you go, and we'll look forward to seeing if you're able to get that elusive 5th win.
We'll see how we go with the wins, but we're chasing something else now.
Just trying to
So
chase that championship, which is most important.
Yeah, we'll see how we go.
Oh, mate, best of
All right.
luck. And if we don't get a chance to speak to you, best of luck for the rest of the season.
Thanks, Aim. Thanks, Scotty.
Thanks, mate.
See you, mate.
Oh, actually,
Oh, yes. Mr. Grumley, yes. I heard you say "and actually" before I rudely moved you out. Nope, he's gone. Fair enough.
And actually, I'm off to get myself another beer.
Yep.
While
Off
you're
to
at
get
the,
myself another can.
sounds like he's in a great place at the moment, not only on track, but physically as well over at Caravan Park. So why wouldn't you? Congratulations to him tonight. But yeah, I think Dean's in the waiting room there, mate.
He is, mate. And not only did he get P3 on the road tonight, he is also our Chubby Buns Burgers driver of the day here out at Motorland Aragon. Mr. Logsdale, your first split 2 podium here. And I feel like this might be the first actual Englishman, still with an English accent, that we've had on the podium here in split 2. But, mate, how does it feel to get the job done out at Aragon? Poor old Stacey. It was a battle of the internationals, and you came out on top.
Yeah, no, it was a great race. I just try to stay consistent, put some consistent laps in, and not burn the tyres up. And then the last few laps there, I pushed a bit to try and keep up with the other 3. And unfortunately, Stacey went off and got a slowdown, which slowed us both down. Otherwise, it would have been a real great battle to the end, I think. But very happy with 3rd, and well done to the podium.
Yeah, well, you drove incredibly well, Dean, and you showed tonight what I've been saying to Hamish for some time and what was sort of expected from you, because we can see that you have got great pace. So this will be absolute confidence building for you and also for Team AGR there. So very well done tonight. But I do have a question for you, right? If you're English born, drive for a New Zealand team and live in Australia, is that right?
Yeah, there's got to be a joke in there somewhere, isn't there?
There has to be, and I'll get back to you on that. But that's quite a combination, mate. But it is a podium combination tonight. So well done, buddy.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. Appreciate it.
Well, Dean, it has been an exceptional run for you this evening, an exceptional run for you this season as well. You're currently inside the top 10, and if you can maximise your performances like this for the rest of the season, you could find yourself managing to stay there. And with the news that Chris Burridge is not going to be here for every round for the rest of the season, you may even find yourself in the top 5, and Team AJR all of a sudden has a split 1 driver in you. So best of luck next week out at Motegi. Let us know who helps get you and Team AJR out on track. Anyone else you wish to give a shout out to as well. For myself and Scotty and the rest of the league, congratulations not only on P3 here tonight, but your first podium here in split 2 of the Vets.
Yeah, thanks very much, Hamish. I'd like to give a shout out to the team. So that's AJ himself, Zippy, and Luke Ullman, and Damon Fisher. Real supportive team. We have a great time practicing together, and as I say, they're really supportive. So yeah, I want to thank them, and also my dad actually. I won't forget him. He's a teammate. He's in Split 4 in his first season of the Vets. I think he's the oldest guy out there at 72 years old, so he's having a crack. But yeah, so and thanks to you as well, you and Scott, for putting this on, and obviously all the admins and Van Loon and Van Ree for putting everything on. It's a great series, and yeah, really enjoying it.
Oh, mate, thank you so much for coming over chat to us. Best of luck next week in Motegi, and if we don't get a chance to speak to you, best of luck in the final 2 rounds the 2 weeks after.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks, mate.
Cheers.
Well, I'll tell you what, for Team AJR there, Hamish, if they can get Allman and Longstall, and I think Fisher, they're all potentially can, they definitely can challenge for the top 10 or even a top 5 in their split too, and could see some, things going forward for them in those 3 drivers, especially in split 2.
Well, we've got a massive week coming up next week, Scotty, of course. Motegi on the calendar next week, which you won't be here for, unfortunately. I have currently got lined up Connor Nixon to be alongside me in the booth for that one, so I'll have to get him in and get him the roles in the Vets Discord. Leading into next week, though, current championship order is as follows. Steve Grumley leads on 917 points, 4 wins and 6 top 5s across his 6 races he's competed in. Luke Ullman, P2, 852 points, so he gave up a lot of gap to Grumley here tonight after finishing outside the top 10. Chris Burridge sits P3 on 833 points, but unfortunately with him not being here for the majority of the rest of the season, that takes him out of the championship hup. The top 3 are made up of our only race winners this season. Daniel Sheriff's then P4, 821 points. Matty Scholes is inside the top 5 on 815 points at this stage. This championship is going to come down to the wire. Any of them can win it at the end of the season. It's going to come down to who can have the best run across Motegi, Portimao, and then the undroppable 300Ks at Bathurst to end out the season.
Yeah, it's going to be very, very good. As you mentioned, I won't be here next week, but I'll definitely be doing pretty much what Stephen was, going to go grab my can, actually, and be in a caravan park up there, enjoying the times, but I'll tune in and watch how it goes. So good luck to all you Split 2 drivers out there next week. Look forward to seeing how you go. But that's it from me. What a race, Hamish.
What a race.
Night race. It was an exciting race. And, the one safety car, very unfortunate. But, gee whiz, apart from that lap 1 incident, there was some really good battles throughout the field. And not just, I know we did focus a little bit on the top 5, but, gee whiz, there was some battles that stretched 8, 9, 10 cars back. So phenomenal racing by all the drivers in the split tonight. Very well done.
You know what? If you ask me, Scotty, no offense to any of the drivers out there, but that safety car came out at the right time and reinvigorated this whole race. It really just threw a cup of gasoline on the fire and really just lit us up and gave every single driver something to fight for in the end. The win was on for about 5 drivers at one point. It then dropped back to only 2. But the podium battle, the battle for the win, it was all absolutely extraordinary. And next week, under lights at Motegi, it is going to be an absolute barn burner, a thunderstorm coming your way from Japan, where we are going to decide another race winner. Will it be a multi-time winner, or will it be a new face on the top step when we go racing with the moon out and the sunset? We'll find out when we head over to the land of the rising sun. But I've been Hamish Munro, joined alongside by the 5-time Split 1 champion, Scotty Gamble. Once again, we'll see you guys next week for Motegi for the night race for round 8 this season. A big thank you goes out to all of our series sponsors, including our title sponsor, Racecraft Simulations, as well as our other sponsors, Logitech G, Parramatta Isuzu Ute, Player One SimGear, Nova Simsports, Südspeed Gloves, LGC Images, and Chubby Buns Burgers for providing the Driver of the Day award tonight. Went the way of Dean Logsdale at a P3 for Team AJR. But I'm in Hamish Munro with Scotty Gamble alongside. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you guys next time. But until then, stay safe, drive hard, and as always, bye for now.
Introducing the Rackraft PT1, custom-built full chassis racing simulator. The design project, codenamed The Cage, an 80/40 extrusion chassis sitting on top of a Sigma Integrale DK2 Plus 4-point full motion actuator system. No compromises in the cockpit of the PT1 simulator. To maximize the experience, we start with a 49-inch ultra-wide monitor for the greatest field of view in a small footprint of the simulator, down to the SimuCube wheelbase that's tucked up and behind the monitors with SimCore extensions to get things out of the driving area. Everything is connected to a Cube Controls GTX steering wheel with the built-in dash and all the extra button functions available at your fingertips. Driving through the Raceworks S1 pedals, the potentiometer throttle and the 2 hydraulic pedals for brake and clutch ensures you maximize the feel underfoot, and seating yourself into an OMP HTER bucket racing seat with OMP belts connected to a G-belt tensioner to provide that extra feeling and the heightened experience while you're driving. Additional interfaces and accessories in the PT1, we have twin butt kickers, one on either side of the OMP seat, as well as a Jinx sequential shifter, the SimPush Race Logic timer to the left-hand side, a Racecraft built-in WinSim kit with Philips Hue lighting and a built-in soundbar, plus the OMP side net to finish off the experience in the PT1. The Racecraft PT1, build number 1, the ultimate in sim racing experience, combining the best products in the market with the passionate, no compromise approach that goes beyond racing simulation.